Hi, my name's Brad Sharp, and I spent 30 years in the Air Force flying the lead jets that we had, the F-100 and the F-86 and the F-4. Had a lot of combat, 3 tours in combat. I did well. I got promoted in spite of the fact that I don't have an education. I got promoted. Only 1% of the people like me get promoted as high as I got, so I was really kind of happy about that. But I just did my job and I had a good time. I had a lot of fun. If I had it to do all over again, I certainly would do it again.
AOPA keeps flying safe, accessible, and fun by protecting your freedom to fly. We are the most trusted one-stop resource for all things related to general aviation. Become an AOPA pilot today.
Well, I enlisted in the Air Force because I wanted to go fly, but the guy that enlisted me said, you can't because you don't have a college education. So I went in anyhow, and then about a year later, pulling KP all the time and all that sort of thing, and making $87.50 a month, they changed the rule and said if you've got 2 years of college, you can apply for pilot training. I had 2 years of college. I applied for pilot training and was accepted and went in and became a pilot. When I first started out, I was flying called the AT-6. It was a World War II fighter. Flew that for 6 months. And then I went into the T-38 and I flew that for about 3 months, and I went into the T-33, that's the first jet, and flew that. And then by class standing, I got one of the 6 F-86 assignments. There were 50 of us applying. Everybody wanted to go to the F-86 because it was the best airplane in the world. I got one of them. When I finished there, they sent me to Nellis Air Force Base where they had the brand new Super Sabre, which was an F-100 that would go supersonic in level flight, and I got to fly that thing. It was really a good thing for me because that's exactly what I wanted to do. And I became an instructor when I was 24. One of the few people that could fly that airplane right off the bat, and I was one of them. We didn't have a two-seater, so if you're going to fly it for the first time, you fly it by yourself. I did that, and I did that for about 5 years. And then after that, I went to Vietnam for a tour as an advisor to the Vietnamese Air Force. And then after I finished with that, I came back, came to Luke Air Force Base in Arizona, and became an instructor again in the F-100. Then after that, it was about time to get into combat, and so I volunteered to go back to Vietnam again, and they put me in an F-4, taught me how to fly the F-4, and then I went in and did that for a year, and came back for a year, and then volunteered to go back again for a year. So I went in there, so I had 3 tours in Vietnam, lots of flying, an awful lot of flying. I got about 750 hours of combat time, which is quite a bit getting shot at every day. And I did get shot at every day and got hit once in a while and got shot down once. Got rescued by Jolly Green Giant, which came in and picked me up before the bad guys got to me. That was kind of neat to do.
Which of the airplanes was your favorite to fly?
F-86. For 2 reasons. One of them was it was the frontline fighter when I got to fly it. I was one of the first that got to fly that airplane in Korea. I got to Korea just as it was closing, but at least I got to fly it, and it was just a fun airplane. It was just like putting on a couple of pairs of old shoes. You know, they just fit perfectly. Everything fit perfectly. That's the one I liked the best. But the best airplane was the F-4. That airplane took a beating, big beating, and I destroyed 3 of them in combat. One was a shoot down, one was a blow up on takeoff, and one was I pulled so many G's to get away from a heat-seeking missile from a MiG right over Hanoi that I overstressed the airplane and broke the bolts and hold the engine in, and the airplane got back home, but they threw it away. I was very lucky, because all those things that happened to me killed other people. They didn't kill me. I don't know why. Yeah. I got the F-86 out of pilot training because I was pretty close to the top of the class. Not not the top, but close enough. So I got an F-86. This is what I wanted. And after about 3 months, I was flying it one day, and my wingman, who was supposed to be looking out for me, lost track of me, and he's looking around for me and runs into me. And he tore the tail of my airplane off. And I didn't know what happened. I thought what happened was that maybe it exploded. And I was only at 1,200 feet above the ground. And they said, don't try to eject from one of these airplanes unless you've got 2,000 feet between you and the ground, because you won't get out. You can't get everything done in time before you hit the ground. Well, so I didn't even think of bailing out. He hit me. I thought I exploded, but the stick was wobbly because the tail was gone. I didn't know any of that, but I couldn't control it. It was snap rolling and going down. And he looked back and saw that I didn't have a tail, so he said, "Jump, Brad, jump." Well, that changed my whole outlook. And so I went through the procedure to get out, and I practiced it all the time. Every time I flew, before I got out of the airplane, I went through this same procedure with seat belt, push away, grab the D-ring, pull, that type of thing. That's what you had to do. And you had to eject the canopy first, and in order to do that, you had to bend forward, pull this handle, and that blew the canopy off. If you didn't lean forward, the canopy would get the top of your head. So, and then you're supposed to lean back like this, straight like this, and reach down and squeeze a trigger, and it fires a 37mm shell, and out you go in the seat. Well, I bent over, pulled the handle, and then squeezed the trigger while I was still bent over. And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have made it, because I went out, get rid of the seat belt, pushed it away, and pulled the D-ring, and the chute opened just about the same time that the airplane hit the ground. And I had my eyes closed all this time because I didn't want to see myself splatter on the ground, you know, it'd be kind of messy. And but all that happened at the same time, and when the airplane exploded, I heard that, and the chute opened at the same time, and it was a severe jerk with it, and I thought I had just hit the ground. But then I opened my eyes and looked up, and there's this beautiful parachute letting me float down, and I thought that was good. Then I looked down to see where I was going to land, and there's the fireball right under me. It's coming right up at me. And well, I was going to go into the fireball, and then all of a sudden the heat from the fireball lifted me up a little bit, and there was some wind that blew me off to the side and dropped me down over here about 50 feet away. So I got down there and got out of the chute and all that sort of thing, and started to walk over to the airplane to watch it burn. It was my own airplane too. I had my name on it. That's what they did in those days. And I wanted to watch it burn. Well, as I got closer to it, the 50 caliber machine gun started firing. So that kind of got me upset. And so I just turned around and started running the other way. It was in northern Japan in December. And I came to a rice paddy where there was about this wide water, a little creek rolling down. I stopped and looked at that, and by this time the panic is starting to finally set in. I said, well, I can jump over that. And so I got back and I ran to jump over it, and I went right in it. Ice water, clear up to my armpits, which was good because it deadened the pain that was gonna come because of that bad back. It cracked my vertebrae. And so I crawled out the other side and sitting there counting my blessings, and then the helicopter came over because it was right off the end of the runway, and everybody saw it happen, but they didn't see me get out because I was so low. And so they say, oh, he's dead. You know, that's the way it was gonna be. But the helicopter came in and they're circling the fireball, and I'm off to the side trying to wave at them, and they finally saw me and went over there and looked down. They couldn't land anywhere because it was all rice paddy. So they just tossed a rope down. I tied myself up in it and held on, and I looked up and they saw me, and they bent over. One of them was holding the other guy from falling out, and the other guy was hand over hand pulling me up. They don't do that now. They've got a electric thing. He pulled me up. Yeah, are you all right? And I said, my back hurts. And they said, okay. So they just laid me down on the floor of the helicopter, sent me back to the base, and the base took me into the clinic. We didn't have a hospital. Took me into a clinic and took an x-ray and saw that it was cracked. So they decided they had to put a cast on it. So I read the book on how to put a cast on, because the doctor was a brand new guy, and he didn't know how to do it either. So I read the book while he's making the paste and all that sort of thing, and starts wrapping it up. He got me all wrapped up from my hips up to here, and put me on an airplane and took me to the nearest hospital, which was 100 miles away. And I stayed there for a couple of weeks, and then I came back and walked around for another 2 weeks with the cast on, and then they cut the cast off. Everything was okay. I said, okay, when can I go fly? Oh no, you can't fly anymore. You're grounded. And I had to fight. I fought that one for about a month. I kept going back every week. I'd go back in and tell him I want to fly. I want to fly. He kept saying, you can't fly. You had a broken back. And I said, well, so what? It's okay now. And I said, how do you know it's going to be bad? Well, we don't know yet, but you got a bad back. You got the back of a 65-year-old man. I didn't like that thought either. I was only 23. But I kept after them until finally they gave up, and they sent all the paperwork and all my statements up the line to the guys with stars on their shoulders. And finally he got to the boss, and he sent a letter back down. If that kid wants to fly that bad, put him back in the cockpit. That's all there was to it. And for about 10 years, my back hurt, and I had to sleep on the floor, sitting up, because my back hurt so bad. But I didn't complain, because I could fly. And that went on for about 10 years until finally it got okay. And I kept flying. Got a couple of little airplanes and built them and flying them, and that's what I'm doing now. And I'm just getting ready to, this is my 71st year of flying, and it's my last. I'm gonna stop flying. I've stopped flying right as we speak. My last time I'm 93 now. I'll be 94 before the year's over with. And I flew until I was 92. The military flying is so, everything is the same way all the time. This is what you do. Here's a checklist. Read the checklist. Do what it says. And I learned all of that. And I still do it in my little airplane. I've got a checklist right here, and I read that all the time. But in the civilian life, whatever you want to do, just don't violate the regulations, which was a problem for me, because in the Air Force, whenever I was going to fly that airplane, it was all canned. Everything was said a certain way. You're going to do this and this, certain weather and all that sort of thing. But the civilian life, you're on your own. And I had to learn all that. And I learned it was different. It's just one of those things. It's just, I mean, it's my last chance of looking down on people. It's just hard to explain, but it's a great life. It's just really a great life, flying.